All right, so no matter what you do, you lose part 2. And today I want to talk about your buy-in amount. So sometimes players will be playing a strategy. They'll buy in for a specific amount, and they'll play a strategy that's destined to lose. Like no matter what you do, you're going to lose over the long run. And one of these is the players that like buy in with a shorter stack. So let's say they're playing like 2-5 and they're not really rolled for 2-5, so they decide to buy in 2-5 for like 300, and they buy in for 300 or 250 or whatever, maybe the min buy in, and they play a style where they'll like call a lot or limp a lot with suited connectors or speculative hands, and hoping to flop a good hand and hoping to stack their opponents. But the reality is their strategy never is profitable because of the fact that the dynamics of the game don't warrant it. So like obviously there's that implied odds situation where you have to make the argument that if you call, right, the times that you win are going to pay for all the times that you lose. But there's also this problem with pre-flop raises, which is kind of like the thing that most people don't understand. So they'll sit down and they'll play a game where the average pre-flop raise is like $25 or maybe $30 at a 2-5. Sometimes it's even higher, right? Like it might be like 30 or 40. I mean, depending on the game you play, I've seen some pretty crazy things. And because of that dynamic, you can't really do anything but sit there, fold, and wait for really strong hands that you're going to go all the way with. And the reason why is you can't risk calling off like a fifth or a fourth of your stack just to see what the flop will be. Like no matter what happens, you're going to lose. And this is something that I see a lot of players do. They sit down in the game and they don't really understand the dynamic. So they might say something like, Blake, listen, there's this 2-5 game. It's the only game in my neighborhood. It's the only game that I can play. I don't have enough money to sit down for 500. Most of these guys got like 6 or 7 or 800 $800 stacks behind them. I want to go in for 300. And I'm like, all right, so they sit down for 300, and they don't really get the fact that the pre-flop raises are so much that they only could play one strategy. No other strategy works. You're just mathematically shooting yourself in the foot. It doesn't work. It does not work. It only works if you get aces over and over and over again and keep shoving and doubling up and keep shoving and double up. However, you could play really, really, really tight, sit there with a $300 stack, wait for your moment to shove, double up, turn 300 into 600, and now you could start playing more loose aggressive / speculative base poker. But you really got to understand that sometimes the confines of the game that you're playing make your style not profitable. It's not going to happen. And you really want to look at those games. Like when you sit down at any game, you want to look at those dynamics. Like what are the average pre-flop raise? What's the pre-flop raise that gets most people to fold? These are dynamics. Not everybody's going to raise 3x or 4x. Sometimes you're in games where it might take like literally. I've been in games where literally the only times people like you have to. Let's say you're playing like 1-2, and you have to raise like $25 to get people to fold. If you have to raise $25 to get down to 1 or 2 players, that game warrants a different dynamic than a game where if you were to raise, that game warrants a different adjustment than if you were to like raise to 6 or raise to like 9 and you get most people to fold. And most people don't understand that like starting hand requirements and all this stuff changes based on your buy-in amount. So if you're going to buy in, if you're going to buy in for a shorter stack, be very, very careful. I can't tell you how many times I've seen players like call. And they don't realize 3 calls with a short stack, they just basically called off like 30% of their stack, hoping their flop will come. And even when it does, they're not actually going to extract value. So you're playing a game that's going to lose over the long run. And some of you might not be doing this, but some of you, those of you who don't do this, be very aware of the people that are doing it, right? They're very juicy. The kind of guy who sits down, or guy or gal, sits down short stack, kind of limps or makes these calls and then unwilling to continue. They're perfect players to isolate and attack because most people will say like, all right, if let's say if this guy keeps calling, right, someone pretty tightish player raises to 20, another player raises to this loose player calls for 20 with a short stack. The fear is I don't want to re-raise because I don't want to get that person to re-shove, right? I don't want that person to shove, and I don't know what to do. I have to fold, right? You won't get into that situation because that player is only going to do that with the nuts. They're not going to do that with looser hands. So you think they're trying to play this crazy strategy, or they think they're trying to play this like short stack ninja strategy, but in reality they just suck. And it's really important to understand when you're up against that, because it's just free money. It's like $20 are going to fold, $20 are going to fold, $20 are going to fold. You can slowly start to chip at them and do pretty well. So yeah, be careful about those buy-in amounts. Be careful about the game dynamics, because they're a very, very, very important part of poker. I mean, like, if you don't get these core fundamentals down and you don't see these things, you inevitably just lose. That's about it. Make sure schoolofcards.com/sign up. I've been working all day on stuff that I'm going to release in the middle of December. Really excited about it. schoolofcards.com/sign up. Sign up for my notifications and email lists. And what else? That's about it. Thank you for the beard recommendations. I Amazoned same day some of this oils that people recommended, Amish oil or something like that. I'm gonna go home and try it right now. Appreciate the feedback, and thank you for the advice about how to make my beard not itch me and want to rip it off. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching.